I'm Jamie from Not So Wimpy Teacher, and this is the last video in a series that I've been doing about teaching math using the math workshop model and math centers. So if you've missed any of the other videos in the series, I highly recommend starting there and then finishing up with this video. It'll make a lot more sense to you. Okay, so today I want to talk to you about the first week, actually 2 weeks of math centers. This is the most critical time. This is where you set yourself and your class up for success for the rest of the year. So it's really important that we take the time to slowly model our expectations, our requirements for our students, okay? The number one advice I can give you is that you should take your time. Don't feel pressured by other teachers in your building that are moving faster than you. You have to move at the pace that your class is ready to work at. And it can be very different from class to class, teacher to teacher, grade to grade. And so don't feel pressured by the teacher next door who's like, oh, we've been doing our math centers on our own for a week now. Why are you so slow? If your class needs it, then spend the time now so that in like a month or two, you don't have all of the behavior problems. You don't have lengthy transition and students who don't know what they're doing, students who aren't on task. Spend the time right at the beginning of the year, and that way the rest of the year is much smoother. You still might need to review some procedures as the year progresses, but by spending a lot of time now, you will save yourself some time later, okay? And you will be so much less frustrated. When teachers give up on math centers, it's typically because they're frustrated, and those frustrations could have been alleviated by more training, okay? This is huge. I full-heartedly believe those first couple of weeks should be spent building a relationship with your students and working on procedures. Okay, what I'm going to do today, I am going to talk about kind of like what I did for my first 8 days in math centers. And I have this little cheat sheet as well as a more detailed explanation of what I did during my 8 days on my blog, and there's a link in this video description to help you. So I'm just going to briefly go over it because you'll have more details that you can reference later, okay? First of all, I get asked often, but my school says I have to start my curriculum on day 2. How am I going to do all of this teaching of procedures if I'm already doing the curriculum? You can do that. I did. I believe my school required us to start our math curriculum around day 3. It's pretty early. So I did it. You know what? There's no point in complaining about the hurdles that we have. We just have to get over them. And it worked out fine for me. What I did was I taught my lesson from my curriculum that was on my pacing guide for that day. I would teach it whole group similar to the way I was going to teach my mini lessons the whole year. If you haven't seen that video, you'll want to check that one out. So I would teach that whole group lesson, introduce that lesson to my students. Usually curriculum kind of starts a little bit more of a review from the previous year. It's not usually too difficult in those first couple lessons. And so I could do it fairly quickly, but even if it took a little bit longer than what my mini lessons will be, because I don't have the small groups going yet, it's okay. But when I'm done with that whole group lesson, that extra time that I have set aside for centers and for small group, that's the time I'm going to use to work on teaching these procedures, okay? So it can be done. All right, little rundown about these 8 days. And like I said, I'm going to kind of go over it briefly, but there is more description in the blog post that I linked in this video. Okay, day 1, after I've done my mini lesson, taught my curriculum the way I need to, I do a whole group, almost like a student meeting. And I'm really excited because here's the thing. If you are excited about math centers, your excitement is going to be contagious for your students. So don't forget that. Drink an extra cup of coffee. Be caffeinated, okay? Put some energy behind this. Don't be scared. I have sort of a class meeting about like what are math centers? What are we going to be doing this year? And then really, I like to make an anchor chart of this, but at least have some really serious discussions about what it's going to look and sound like during Math Center time. Talk about what the teacher is going to be doing during Math Center time. What will students be doing during Math Center time? What will they not be doing during Math Center time? And why do all these Math Centers anyway? I like to tell my students, like, I have these amazing Math Centers. I've been waiting all summer just to show you. I'm so excited. We are going to have so much fun with them. And you are going to become amazing mathematicians by working with me in small groups. Get them worked up for it, okay? So the first day, I love an anchor chart about what it's going to look and sound like. Have students help you come up with examples about how students are going to be on task. Students won't be talking to their friends. Students will be working on their center. Students will be at the correct center at the correct time. Students will transition quickly between centers. Those types of things, okay? Talk about it. You can even model it. You can have students model it too. All right, that's day one. Kind of just a meeting, what it's going to be like. Give them a sneak peek, okay? Day two, I also keep whole group. It is my last full whole group during this Math Center time, and that excites me because I don't enjoy teaching whole group. This is when I'm going to actually model the independent center. And if you've watched my video about the center activities, then you know what I do during independent centers. For my first unit, I always start with my back to school centers. I have these in all of my Math Center bundles, and the great thing about the back to school centers is that they cover skills from the previous grade level. So my second grade set covers first grade skills, and my third grade set covers second grade skills, and so on. So by starting with this, it helps me students to focus on the Math Center procedures and how we run Math Centers without being too stressed about math skills. But it also gives me as a teacher an opportunity to see where they're at with skills they should already have mastered. It gives you a little bit of a look. Do they just have a little bit of summer slide, or are there some serious skills that we're going to have to work with these students on? You might start being able to pick out your math groups by watching the first few days of this Math Center too, okay? So I grab out these back to school centers. I like to sit my class in a circle if I have the space, and I like to model for them how it will be done. I show them the recording book. I show them the 10 different centers. Talk about how they're going to be able to choose which order to do the centers in. We talk about how I'm going to go and get the center and where I'm going to take it. We talk about opening it up and finding the direction card and making sure that I always start by reading the direction card. And then I'm going to model as many of the centers I can get through. I'm going to show them how I'm matching or sorting or whatever the center calls for. And to keep this engaging, because it can get boring for students to just sit there watching you, keep this engaging with lots of pair shares. Turn and tell your partner where they're going to go to find these Math Center activities. Turn and tell your partner what the first thing they should do once they have their Math Center at their seat. Turn and tell your partner where they're going to record their answers. Okay? That kind of thing keeps them engaged in the lesson. You're giving them lots of permission to speak, and actually repeating what you're saying helps to commit it to memory for them. They're hearing it a second time, they're saying it. So it's a really good idea, and it can be so quick. Lots of pair shares done very quickly. So that's what my day 2 looks like. I'm really working on the independent center rotation first because I think this one's a little trickier. There's more pieces. This is the part that's going to get graded from me. There's just a little more to it, and so I like to start with this one so that we have longer to practice it before we have all of our rotations down and we're doing it on our own. So day 3, I'm still working with the independent centers. But this time, take your whole class and put them into some small groups. And don't worry about who's in what group. It does not need to be based on their level or anything. Just putting them into groups, because the groups are going to be working on these centers, and you only have 10 centers, so you need to put them in groups. They'll be working together. That way you have enough centers for everybody. And I tell my kids, I said, you won't be working in groups when we actually do this, but I want you in groups today, partially because I only have so many centers, and also that way you can help each other out if we've forgotten anything. okay? So I put them in a group. And this group is going to go and pick out a center and bring it back where the whole group is. And as a group, they're going to work on sorting or matching or rolling the dice, whatever the center asks them to do. The only thing is, I don't give them the recording book. I tell them we don't need to worry about that right now. You're going through the process of doing the centers, but we don't need to worry about the math quite yet. So they don't need to do the recording book. They will do that soon, okay? It's just a matter of them being able to practice the centers while you don't have a small group, so you can walk around and answer any of their questions. If there's some confusion about what directions mean, you can help clarify now, and that way there aren't as many questions when you're busy with a small group. Since my center activities are very consistent, once you teach the back to school ones, you'll have a lot less questions with the next several units, okay? So I have them work on a center, and then I have them put it away, go get another one. The goal is on day 3 to get through about 5 of the centers. They may or they may not. No stress. And then day 4, we'll do the same thing. They're in the same groups, and maybe they'll get through the next 5 centers. It's more a practice of the routine. Don't worry about the math. It's a practice of going and getting the materials, bringing it where they're supposed to work, reading the directions, and seeing if they understand the directions, putting the center materials back and putting them away. That's what it's really about. And so as long as you're seeing that kind of practice happen, then you're having a successful day, okay? Day 5, we're going to move on to another one of our rotations. We've been working on the independent center for 3 days now. So generally, my students are ready to move on and learn a new rotation. If yours aren't, though, take another day. Do what your students need. Feel them out a little bit. It's okay if they didn't get through all 10 centers, but if you still felt there was a lot of challenges, then bring them back together, talk about the solution to those challenges, and try it again, okay? But usually by about day 5, we're ready to learn our next rotation, and I go ahead and teach the math fact rotation second. When I did my math fact rotation, I had my kids do the extra math first and then the fact games, and I talked a lot about that during the video about my math center activities. If you haven't seen that one, you'll want to check it out. So on this 5th day, I taught them how to log into extra math. I wasn't one-to-one, I didn't have a classroom full of devices, but I just put them into some groups where they could each take turns logging the device into their extra math and seeing what that was all about. After that, I modeled for them how to play maybe 1 or 2 of the math fact games. I showed them where those games would be stored. We would talk about going to get those supplies, bringing them where they could play, and a little bit about playing in a whisper voice, okay? Because that's the toughest part about the math fact games. And if you have time, you might be able to let the groups play a game. At the very least, have some kids model playing the games so that the rest of the class can see that, okay? But really focus on just practicing math facts and what they should do during the math fact rotation. Day 6, I teach them the technology rotation. This is really the easiest one to teach, so you might even have some time to review the math fact rotation if you need to, and then go on technology. Technology is usually pretty easy for them, but again, you can stick them into some groups so that each kid can practice logging into whichever website it was that you chose for them to use during this time, making sure that they can get there and that their login works. Make sure that you talk about your rules and procedures for taking care of technology if you have not already done that. Make sure they know where to get it, that they shouldn't have sticky hands or be drinking water around them, that they shouldn't run, where are they allowed to take their technology. Make sure those things have been covered if they have not already been covered in your classroom. Day 7 and 8 are our run-throughs. This is like our rehearsal. We've now learned all of our rotations, so now we're going to run through them. The key is that you're not busy with a small group, so therefore you're able to help them go, okay, don't forget, this is where you find this material. And you're there to kind of be their coach, okay? By day 7 and 8, I do like to post my math groups, who's in which math group, so they can really practice it the way they'll be doing it next week when we really get going, okay? So I talked about this when we talked about small groups. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you've been watching your kiddos now for several days. You've probably gotten a little bit of an idea of where people belong, and it's okay if it's not perfect. You can change these things. Once they're once they understand the procedures, really you can change them from group to group pretty easily. So on day 7, I tell them that we're going to pretend it's a Monday or a Wednesday. If it is a Monday or Wednesday, that's awesome. But either way, we're going to pretend, because on Monday and Wednesday, remember, they do the exact same rotations. So we're going to pretend it's that day. We're going to do a run through. So basically, I'm going to take them from the mini lesson. They're going to look at the poster, know what group they're in. They're going to head to their first rotation. So I'm going to have kids at the Math X rotation. I'm going to have kids at technology. I'm going to have kids at the independent centers. And this time I will give them the book. They can actually start working on these back to school centers independently. I love kids coming to meet with me. I just have something real simple from the work on, because you need to be available to the whole class at this time. So you want to acknowledge, like, hey, when you guys come back here, we are going to have a lot of neat things that we're going to cover. I am really going to help you with the skills we're learning in class. We're going to use manipulatives. We're going to do interactive notebooks. It's going to be so awesome. This might be a good time to give them their math notebook and have them color the cover, or even if you have to give them a worksheet. This might be one of those times where it's just something so they can practice doing the rotation, but you really can't meet with them right now. At least not the whole time. You kind of need to be available to walk around, help that kiddo struggling to log in, help that kiddo who forgot a certain procedure or routine. On day 8, we really do the exact same thing, but now it's Tuesday or Thursday, because they do different rotations on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so now they're going to get to practice their Tuesday, Thursday routine. And these are run-throughs. You're really wanting to focus on, do my kids understand the procedures? Are they quiet? Are they moving from center to center quickly? Are they following the rules? At the end of each of these days, I would end just a tad early. You don't have to go the full 20 to 30 minutes per rotation, because this is really for practice. But I would pull them and sit down and talk about, like, what went well and what do we need to improve on. Have them reflect with you so that we can continue to improve. If on day 7 and 8 go really well in your classroom, then great. On day 9, meet with your groups and go full-fledged. Everyone's doing their activity and you're good to go. But guys, if day 7 and 8 aren't great, then take another couple of days to rehearse. I know it's a lot of time now, but you will thank yourself later. When other teachers are talking about, oh, my kids just don't move from center to center and they don't take care of the games and pieces are everywhere and they talk so much, you're not going to be in that boat, because you cleared up these things before they became the bad habits. Okay, take care of it now. Now, I talked about this during my writing video series. If you watched that, then you might know this little strategy. It's something I learned from the Daily 5 book. I don't do Daily 5, but I loved this strategy and used it all the time in my classroom. So I just think it's worth repeating. One fun strategy you can use throughout these 8 days as you're teaching them different things is the model what not to do strategy. And here's kind of how it works. I teach my kids how to go and get their independent center materials and take them back to their desk to work, or the floor, wherever it is they work. I've told them how to, I've even shown them, we've talked about what to do, what not to do. Now, you need to choose a model. Choose that kiddo who's struggling to sit still, the kiddo who wants to talk so badly. You're not making fun of him, you're not making like a scene of it, but you're actually letting him do what he wants. Don't pick that shy, nervous kid who would be embarrassed, but pick the kid who's like dying to get in front of the class, okay? And you're gonna say to him, hey Johnny, I've just gone through all kinds of procedures for getting our independent centers, but you know what would be fun? Could you please show the class what not to do? I want you to break all the rules, okay? You don't need to be quiet. You don't need to take care of the materials. I want you to show them what not to do. And you know what? If you've picked the right kid, he's super excited. And actually the rest of the class is like, can I do it next? Can I do it next? Because it's fun, okay? It's just fun. So Johnny's going to get up and he's going to take the longest route to the to the materials, maybe stopping at a couple places and talking. He's going to go get materials, and maybe he's going to take multiple centers instead of just one. And maybe he's going to talk all the way back. He's going to go to a place in the room that you told them not to work at, and he's going to forget where his recording book is, and then have to get up again and go look for that. Okay? And the whole time, the class is laughing, and probably Johnny's actually having a difficult time not laughing too, okay? But afterwards, you're going to call him back over, and as a class, talk about what are some of the things that Johnny did that we can't do when we do math centers. And, tell Johnny, thank you, that's exactly what I was wanting you to do. That's great. Let's talk about it. And as a class, brainstorm some of the things he did that we can't do. But then turn to Johnny and say, okay, Johnny, you did a fabulous job showing them what not to do. I'm really hoping you can help me out again. Can you show the class exactly what to do? Can you do it perfectly? Remembering all of our procedures, okay? And so he does it again, and this time he follows the procedures. He's enjoying this attention, and so it goes really well. You can call him back over and talk about the difference between the 2 times he did it. If you have time, do it with another student, or do it the next day with another student. It's a fun thing for your class. They will remember this as being fun, but also it is a good teaching moment for the whole group. And for Johnny, it is priceless, because you are going to look right at Johnny and say, great, now I know that Johnny knows exactly what to do when we're getting independent math centers. He has just proven to you that he can do it. So now you can count on him. Okay? And the whole class has learned and had a good experience together. Okay? It's fun, and math centers should be fun. I like to bring out this strategy for teaching all kinds of procedures in my classroom. That way, students who really want to get an opportunity to be the model do. All right. The key is really take the time to teach those procedures. They're so very important. And if your students can't work on independent centers for the full 20 minutes at first, that's okay. Time them and say, how long can we do it? We need to get to 20 minutes. Well, today we only meet at 10 before we were really, really chatty. So maybe tomorrow we can get to 15. If that's what you need to do, then start there. Gauge what your kids need and take your time with it. You will pat yourself on the back and thank yourself later. All right, guys, it's been really fun talking about how to teach math with you. And I'm sure I'll be back with another video before long. Bye.